Hey, Kartik.
Socks and sandals. Interesting.
Yep. That's a sandal sock market fit here.
You know you've made it when you can be on stage with socks and sandals talking about product market fit.
Yeah, it's actually our latest fashion. It's really nice, comfortable, and it really fits well to this weather as well.
And these are Avara socks from what it looks like.
Yeah, this is
even better.
Lens
socks.
Yeah, it's really cool. Very comfortable. I can send you a pair. Do we have any?
Love one.
You have any socks here? Can we get some? Do we have there some? Can I get some for the audience too? I just want a few. Yeah. Can I get you? Who wants some socks? Who wants some socks? Yeah. All right, let's do this. So we're gonna give some.
I'll hold the mic. There we go.
All right. All right. Who wants one? All right. Oh, one more. Oh. Here we go.
Who wants the green one now? There we go.
All right. Who wants more? Yay! One more. Yay! All right. This is gold sock. Okay, two more. Who wants more? Here we go. Oh, one more here. All right, there. Bing. Oh. All right, that's it. You can come and get some more.
We'll make sure everybody gets one and you run out of it successfully.
All right.
That's a good way to start. We should make this the standard.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's get one of those T-shirt cannons, and that's the countdown.
So those who didn't get any socks, don't be disappointed. We have few pairs. So, come after the talk, and maybe you will be lucky.
All right. Well, the discussion we want to have today is about understanding what product market fit means in crypto. And you've been working on Aave for a long time, and now you've kind of seen a few evolution of the space, but also your own products. And I wanted to kind of start off by asking you, how kind of do you think about product market in DeFi? And just sort of walk us through some of the early decisions you had to make, and kind of was this even like the consideration? Like, did you say, hey, we can only do this thing because you want to reach product market fit? Or was it mostly reacting to what people were doing and then just going deeper in those areas?
Yeah, I think the reactiveness is quite challenging, especially because I think crypto and Web3 particularly has a very thick social layer, which means that we like to see what other people are doing and kind of also maybe take the best of what else are doing and integrate into our own product. And we like to talk about narratives and build upon those narratives as well. And sometimes that actually might be interesting, but in some cases it can be really big distraction as well. So one of the kind of challenges I see in this space is that when you start building something, you have a great vision, and you want to unlock that vision and build something very useful and interesting for the users. There's a lot of things happening, and maybe a ecosystem of other participants in the market that are building something similar and creating narratives, and very easily kind of that takes the driver's seat. And it's kind of hard because eventually what's the most important for reaching product market fit is to build something that the users want. And some of these users might be part of the social layer and talking about your product or the space in general, the category you're building, but necessarily aren't the users of your product. And that's a really important thing to do, is to recognize and pinpoint who are the actual users, what they think about your product, how they're using it, what's missing there, and how to make it better. And then over time to understand how big of a group of people this is and whether it could become actually a product or a business. So that's a really kind of hard thing to navigate. It's very easy to be reactive, and you have a competitor that integrates a feature.
Everybody has points now.
Everyone has points. You're following the meta. The meta is even the bigger challenge, because everyone is trying to search for the same thing. And I do think there's good things about meta, and it creates a familiarity. So if people are using Web3 products and they can familiarize with an existing idea, and you can write that idea. Maybe that's interesting, but in most cases it doesn't fit to every use case essentially. So that's one aspect. The second aspect is that many of us here are building because they believe in decentralization and they believe in building resilient infrastructure that can be better, let's say better finance, more efficient, better ways to own content, building social networks or prediction markets or whatever that type of a use case might be there. And in some cases, like the decentralization aspect might be something that makes it more difficult to build something that the users want. And you have to kind of like come from still an angle of like, you know, how you build the best thing for the users. So in some ways, there's a lot of distractions that can actually derail you building what the users want or taking your time away from talking to the users in the first place. So I think those are the things that are quite challenging in the space. And one last thing is that actually knowing who your users are. Because in Aave's example, like when we started, it was really hard to find the people who are using Aave and ETLend in early days because we didn't collect data.
Just an address.
There's just an address, and you can just speculate who that address might be. Obviously, today it's a little bit different because you actually have labeling and whatnot, so you can actually recognize, for example, the liquidity that comes, and that helps to connect with those people and ask, like, what do you like about Aave? Like, what's particularly interesting about that? Lens is a little bit easier because people can create content, they identify themselves, so it makes much more easier the job. But that's the kind of like challenges that we've seen in the past that has been really challenging.
One thing that many have noticed is a transition from Aave to Avara, and you've expanded the set of products you've been working on. Obviously, people got the Go socks, and you have Go, you have Lens, Aave, of course, and also soon Family Wallet. Walk us through kind of the decision to sort of expand that, and is kind of the goal here to vertically integrate all these products or something else? Give us sort of a overview of like what the Avara vision is.
The original vision obviously was just to build something interesting and cool. And I was still studying in university. It was 2016, and I'm a late bloomer, so I dropped out of high school to actually program, and that was during the Web 2.0 boom when Ruby on Rails was interesting thing, and nobody cares now about it. And then went back to actual university, and end of my studies, I started to read a lot about Ethereum and things you can build there. And previously I built social applications and financial applications, and for me it felt really interesting to experiment something on Ethereum that is financial. And DeFi didn't really exist at that point, so I wanted to actually create a way to actually earn interest, collateralize assets and borrow against them on the blockchain because it's transparent, it's auditable, and you can guarantee a execution with smart contracts. So it started as pretty much like a side project that then became interesting for a lot of users, and I was talking to people back then, and they were asking like, hey, can you improve this feature? Can you do these other things? And started to actually improve the whole product. And at some point in 2017, I realized that this could actually be a good product, and started to focus on full time on that. And that vision for me was just using this technology to democratize finance. So starting with obviously lending and borrowing, and then expanding and just making available for people equal access to financial opportunities. We're still living in a world where most of the people don't have access to dollar, speaking even of a dollar yield. So if we can have actually borderless composable finance, we could actually have more interesting opportunities, and the financial infrastructure will be better. And it could work the same way as the internet is working today, just purely protocols that are used by everyone who is accessing the internet. And much more later, what we realized is that here we are building a completely new and next generation internet, which means that it's not only about finance, it has financial rails, and financial value, and that can be actually moved around, but it's going to be about more. It's about ownership economy. It's about economy where users are participating in the infrastructure that they build and contribute to. And that's how we formed Aave. And Aave is about building the people-powered internet. So we believe that in the future, a lot of this infrastructure will be decentralized, that even was centralized in the past, like social networks or like finance and banking. And being that decentralized, we still think that there's going to be a lot of businesses built, but in a more fair and open way. So we're going to see a lot of this infrastructure being accessible to everyone, creating more opportunities, especially more opportunities to innovate for young entrepreneurs like everyone else here. But at the same time, we will see like actually businesses being built, and there's just more power and more safe for the users what they can actually do. So with Aave, we started to expand to building Lens as a resilient social network, where we are trying to bring ownership not just into financial assets, but also ownership into your social identity, the networks you create as a social graph, and also creating content and being able to own that as well. And with Family Wallet, what we believe is that we can expand the idea of what if we actually have a more of an end-to-end approach and actually focus how we bring more users into the space by building a wallet that has a really nice design and experience and making it super easy for everyone to contribute. And every infrastructure that we build is actually open. So even if we have our own interfaces, anyone can actually plug them in and integrate and build and innovate on top of them. And I think that's the big value proposition of this new next generation internet, is that everything is open. You can build algorithms, you can build aggregators, and it just makes a much, much better way to collaborate, whether it's finance or something else. And that's basically Aave. We have still a long way to go because building this decentralized internet will take probably like the next couple of decades.
It's a long road, but we're making progress. Well, speaking of kind of future things that we get to see, can you tell us more about Aave v4 and what's part of this new version?
Aave v4 is going to be more optimized version of the Aave protocol. So we've been building Aave for, I would say, like past 7 years and focusing on that opportunity. And I think the Aave v3 is really very optimized, well-functioning piece of public good now. And I would say that at the moment, Aave protocol probably has roughly like 70% of the market share, 65, 70. And if you look at the code base, including all the forks, that's like 75% of the market share. So it's a really good type of infrastructure as a public good. And v4 is just taking and optimizing the Aave protocol and its use cases to cover also things like real-world assets, flexibility, adding ability to add liquidation strategies, different borrowing strategies as well, and also this concept of liquidity layers. So now Aave is a one entry point market, which actually makes it very efficient and scalable, and that's why that has been like one of the drivers why Aave has been growing, especially more lately. So we have 17 billion worth of net deposits at the moment, where almost half came during this year. But we want to actually enable ability to create your own liquidity layers that can be seeded from the main market as well. So we see that the kind of future is that there's different kinds of risk profiles and different kind of use cases like RWAs, essentially. So to facilitate those use cases and to avoid liquidity segregation, we want to create a version where actually you can seed the liquidity from one particular pool. And there's a concept of liquidity premiums, which means that we can reprice the risk and reward within the same pool without fragmenting the liquidity. This means that if you're bringing into Aave the most leanest collateral and borrowing the most leanest asset, like let's say ETH against USDC or Go, you're paying the risk-free rate. And if you are providing more risk into the protocol, you're paying more premium, which means that the protocol earns more, and the suppliers are going to earn more. There's a lot of features, Karthik, there.
Yeah, I was like, there's way more I want to dig into, but not enough time. But maybe I'll ask a similar version of it for Lens. So you recently announced that you're switching to the ZK stack. Tell us about why that decision and sort of what does that unlock, or kind of what does that actually now mean you have to do more of to make it be fully ready for prime time?
The main thing what I was searching for when I was looking all these different stacks that are available, and there's a lot of good technology out there. There's a lot of choices, and probably this is one of the challenges for everyone there that are building something. So for me, what was really important is to choose a stack that is technically represents the capability that I'm trying to receive. I didn't care too much about what is the kind of like a latest buzz and where people are launching meme coins. That is irrelevant because that's part of that kind of like a chasing meta narrative. For me was to find something that is very suitable for me and for our vision, what we wanted to achieve. So one big factor for the Lens team is that we actually want to ensure that users don't need to pay for blockchain fees and transaction costs. So I think like previously, even like if you think about like text messages, people used to pay per message.
To receive and send.
To receive and send messages, which is quite crazy if you think about it today, because now you don't really, you pay packages and you don't really pay per message. For us, like we want to provide a infrastructure for Lens where no one actually from the users are paying any transaction costs. So the blockchain needs to be free to use. And then you can have some sort of like a freemium model where everyone can use it for freely, but then there is value-added things that can be added that actually drives some of that revenue. And the way to actually do that is to use Validium. So Validium means that you're using Ethereum as a way of submitting state transitions with zero-knowledge proofs. So you package the information and send it to Ethereum. But then for the data storage, you're actually using, or the state storage, you're using a data availability layer. So what we actually chose is a ZK Sync setup. So we're using the ZK Sync era as a basis and then using Avail, a data availability solution, to actually lower these transaction costs. And what we're actually doing here is that we're looking at the blockchain trilemma. So it's a classical problem in our space where you have scalability, decentralization, and security, and you can't have all those three things at the same time. So you have to compromise somewhere. I think it's about applying the right amount of security to achieve the scalability, and same thing, applying the right amount of decentralization to achieve scale. So
just to check, you're saying you'd never want to compromise on security to achieve scalability? Is that what you mentioned?
I think it's like you will never compromise security if you apply the right amount of security.
I see.
So if you think about, if you have like a house and you need to secure the house, it's kind of like choosing the right size of a lock, or like security measures there. So like if you have a lock that is sufficient to keep people out, you have enough security. If you build a wall around the house, you have more security. If you build 5 walls around the house, you have even more security. If you put alligators between all these walls, you have even more security, right? Then if you have a helicopter,
sniper on the roof,
exactly. So it's all about how much security you need for that use case that enables like ownership, right? And that's what we're looking here. And currently, the way Ethereum, for example, works, it's more of a light switch. So you basically get the security that Ethereum provides with its staking capital. With L2s, you can inherit that security. And then the next stage is that, well, you have also like restaking where you can kind of like decide how much of security you need. And Validium is also part of the idea where, hey, let's use the amount of security we actually need for social and consumer transactions where we enable ownership, so people can own, for example, their identities. They can own a feed that they create and collaborate with other people online, or they can create social graphs and connect, and basically create this ownership where that ownership doesn't exist in one social network and a platform. That the users have more power and they own it. So that's the kind of like a reason how we went about it. And when we actually turn the mindset of users not needing to pay fees, it's much easier to onboard new users because you're using the blockchain the same way as you're using internet today. When you browse between different web pages, you're not really paying AWS or the developers' other costs. The developers are absorbing these costs. So the same way as you're paying AWS bill, you'll pay a very tiny bill of transacting on Lens, for example.
Like electricity usage for your gas.
Exactly. And if you are like aspiring developer and you want to build on Lens network, obviously at that case, we approach these teams, or you might approach us and we give credit so you can actually go and build and try to reach that product market fit. And if it happens, obviously you don't need us anymore. So we want to even jumpstart and give credits to build on Lens network.
Amazing. Well, kind of maybe my last question here would be kind of bringing it back to product market fit. There's a lot of people who are starting companies, especially in DeFi. So even if it's not DeFi, what kind of general advice you want to give to founders now, especially in 2024, for how they should think about product market fit and actually getting some early indication of things are working, and kind of use that to hone in on what they really need to build, and kind of what would you say to founders here?
Yeah, biggest probably learning is to find the 10 most important users for your product and really have a good discourse with those users, understanding what they're doing and also talking to them. I think it boils down a lot to the users. And one of the reasons people actually love to use, really love Aave, is actually the application. So we did this amazing work on the protocol side, but then when you go to the application, they have a lot of things there. For example, we disabled a feature, and as I mentioned, we don't collect that much data. So we disabled one feature for a couple of weeks, and we get a lot of complaints that, why did you do that? Because this is why I like to use Aave. This is why Aave is so amazing, because you have this feature, and you realize, okay, so let's fix it and put it back in on the application level. So the protocol itself, or the smart contract piece, can't be just one solution. You have to think all the way to the experience, the application, and even the way that the users onboard. So the more data you have and understand the whole user journey, how they get on chain, it will be good to even know how they start their day. Maybe that's helpful too. But how they get on chain, what do they come from? Coinbase? Do they come from on-ramp? What wallets they're using? What kind of are the steps? And just thinking, how do you eliminate some of those steps around?
Do you think this applies to the MVP as well, or purely for, hey, you kind of have an idea, you've built it, and then all you need to do now is listen to the users and see if 10 more people like that same thing, and you kind of then go directly into that forest? But is there any distinction or nuance that you have for what does it mean to ship the earliest version?
Yeah, I do think that you should ship as early as possible. And I think one of the challenges also is that you want to ship something that works as well. I think there's one school that thinks that ship something that is half usable, or just get it early there. So do it if you think that there is just a very low market window to create something, but very usable. But if the product really breaks and it doesn't work, people will go somewhere else eventually. So there's nothing wrong to actually wait and build something really well. I'm pretty sure if it takes you 1 year to build something, I'm pretty sure DeFi will be still here. So it's kind of
it's been true for 7 years. I think your aid will be just fine.
Exactly, because people have this. As a builder, you probably will have a lot of anxieties, and one of them is probably this: how you get it faster. You see competition coming, you see people talking about a lot of this, the same category you're building. So all of these things are really distractions. If you just focus on the users, you can remove a lot of that anxiety and focus on how to just make a better product. And if you ship something early, very simple, make sure it's good enough that even if it's simple, people can use it and they can create a relationship with your product.
Amazing. Stani, thank you so much for this amazing conversation. Hopefully you had some great insights from this too. And for those of you who got the socks, enjoy them. And please give a big round of applause for Stani.
Thank you so much.